Steven Spielberg presents Back to the Future, a Robert Zemeckis film. Marty leads an ordinary life.
No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Yeah, well, history is going to change.
And 1985 is not his year. But Dr. Brown is about to change all that.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine instead of a DeLorean?
He's sending Marty 30 years back in time.
It works! It's a flying saucer from outer space!
Now, he's trapped in the past.
It's got to be a dream.
About to meet
Chocolate.
his future father.
He's a peeping Tom.
Wow!
And he's making an impression on his mother.
He's an absolute dream. And he can sleep in my room.
Anything you do could have serious repercussions on future events.
Now, he's got to make his mother and father fall in love.
For crying out loud, I haven't even been born yet.
And only Dr. Brown can help him get back to the future.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Precisely.
Michael J. Fox,
Whoa, this is heavy.
Christopher Lloyd,
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Back to the Future.
But the best two time travel stories were The Time Machine and Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And basically, Back to the Future follows the same type of time travel rules as The Time Machine, which is that you can travel through time but not through space. And a lot of time travel stories violate that concept. Not only do you travel 100 years in the past, but you also travel from Los Angeles to England miraculously. So we believed in the H.G. Wells time machine idea of time travel. I can't remember the idea for Back to the Future came about with, and who knows where these ideas really come from, but it was like the notion that Bob Gale had of what it would be like to see your parents as kids when you were the same age as they were.
You're my mom. You're my mom.
That we selected was purely mathematical.
Action!
It was an 80s kid who had to go and find his parents at his same age, so that put us immediately into the 50s. And that was also the time when the birth of the teenager happened anyway, and teenagers in America were given power by the media, power to buy things. They became an economic power. So that worked out well for us. First idea of the time machine was that it was a chamber of some sort. Yeah, I guess we had it built into an old refrigerator. But it became very apparent that if you were going to really build a time machine, it should be a vehicle. And probably it should be a tracked vehicle, kind of like a tank. Because if you're going to travel to times when there were no paved roads, you'd have to be able to get around. But we decided to use the DeLorean automobile because of this joke that we had in the movie. When the time machine arrives in the past, the people who live in the farmhouse think that it's an alien spaceship.
Looks like an airplane.
The project for Columbia Pictures who put it in the turnaround. And this was in the early 80s, and the average teen film in the early 80s was very R-rated. And they were sort of drinking, drugging, sex comedies, and those were the films that were making a lot of money. So most of the studios, when we went to set the film up, thought that the film was too soft because it didn't have a lot of edgy stuff in it, except for Disney, who thought that because of the relationship with the son and the mother, it was too dirty.
Do you mind if...
Very early on, he was one of the first people I had read the screenplay, and he liked it very much, and he wanted to produce it like he did in my previous films. But my previous two films were not successful, and I was concerned that if Steven had produced a third film that was a box office flop, then I would not be able to probably get a job anywhere as a director. So I explained that to him, and he said, I think you're probably right. And then many years went by, 3 to be exact, and then I was finally hired by Michael Douglas to do Romancing the Stone, which fortunately was a hit. And then everybody wanted to do Back to the Future because Romancing the Stone was a hit movie. And I thought it would only be appropriate to go back to the one guy who's the only person who had faith in it based on the material itself, and that was Steven. Casting is something that you just feel. Crispin and Leah, they all came in and read many times and became the character. Chris Lloyd, I knew he was the perfect Doc Brown the minute he walked in the office without even having to say a word. Just by looking at him, I knew he was perfect.
Christopher Lloyd said,
demanding that the movie be released on a specific day in the summer. So we cast Eric Stoltz in the lead part for Back to the Future, and this was a miscalculation on my part. I mean, Eric is a fabulous actor, and he was doing great work, and it just for some reason, to me, didn't feel like it was the right type of performance for the type of humor that I was trying to go for in the film. So I had to do a very painful thing and replace Eric with Michael J. Fox.
Michael read the script.
Bob and I, this was the third picture that we had collaborated on, and we'd had wonderful previews on all our films. Our first two films, which weren't successful at the box office, had tremendous previews. So I got very nervous once the previews were good because I knew I had this movie that I knew that the world would really enjoy seeing, and yet, as a filmmaker, that's the thing that is very much out of your control. And the decisions that we made 18 months earlier, making a movie about time travel, making a movie with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, all those things that would make someone want to go see the movie, those decisions now were coming to either work for us or haunt us either way, and luckily in our case they all worked. Mind the first Back to the Future to have a sequel. The flying car at the end was a joke, and it worked as a great joke and a great payoff. Everyone assumed that we had this grand design like George Lucas did about Star Wars to have all these sequels. My only hope for Back to the Future ever was that it would make its money back. Obviously, I wasn't designing the movie for a sequel, because if I was, I never would have put the girlfriend in the car, because that became a gigantic problem in writing the sequels, and I would have only had the Doc and Marty be in the car. Then I could have put them on any adventure. But what happens is that when you make a movie that's this successful, it becomes a piece of real estate, it becomes a franchise. And the reality comes at you very quickly, which is we're making a sequel, and you guys can either help us or not, but the sequel is going to be made. Bob and I, we searched our souls for quite a long time, and then it dawned on us that we were in a situation that was very unique, because we had the opportunity to do a sequel to a movie that's about time travel and time paradox. So in fact, we could do something that you could never do under any other circumstance, which is to go into the first movie in the second movie from a different angle. That excited me. And that's why I think Back to the Future 2 is one of my most interesting movies, and one of my favorite, and it's certainly the strangest movie I've made. When I was doing Roger Rabbit, and I knew that I was going to be doing the sequel, and I knew we were going to be involved in all these different multiple characters, and I said, you know, what we really need to do is we really need to come up with a system where I can do these splits, where I can put two actors in the same frame and be able to move the camera. So we were able to commission ILM to build what has become known as the VistaGlide camera, which was a robotic motion control camera dolly system. And it worked great.
Oh boy.
Futures were done before digital anything. Everything in the two Back to the Future sequels was done optically. So when we do a scene with Michael Fox playing three different characters, he's got 4 or 5 hours of makeup to change each character, and once you set the camera in position, you have to glue everything down in the set and can't be touched. And some of these scenes were so elaborate, and Michael's makeup was so long that we had to do them over a series of 2 days. And one time there was a tremor, an earthquake tremor, and we were concerned that everything might have moved in the set, but it turned out that we were okay. It was just a little one. We didn't have to reshoot anything. Never really ever wanted to go to the future in the Back to the Future movies, because I don't like seeing the future in any movie, because the only kind of future that the audience actually accepts is an Orwellian dark future. So the problem with doing movies in the future is that you always are wrong. You underestimate it. You can't be right. Even Stanley Kubrick has always mispredicted the future in his movies. So what we did is we just decided to figure out a way to make it all into jokes. I feel that one of the reasons I enjoy having films that are historical or revisionist history or a period film is because I think it's one of the things that cinema can do best. It can do it good in two areas. One is that you can recreate the past in a movie and present it in a fictional way because we know what it looked like. And the second reason is by having time pass, you can examine the truth about something that happened in the past because you've been able to look at it through the prism of time.
So is this going to air in the morning?
It's going to air on a nationally syndicated program all over the place, and even airs in Canada. Well, I can see you're a real morning person. You like getting up in the morning,
I
don't
love
you?
the mornings, yes.
You don't really even like to sleep, do you?
Oh, no, not at all.
Because your
I don't
schedule
work.
seems to push it where you don't include sleeping in your schedule.
Well, I figure I peaked at 25, and now I'm trying to include it a little more, on the slide towards 50.
Like you're 14 years old now, and you look like you're 26.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
I feel like I'm 90.
You're a Canadian young man,
Yes, I am.
but American now, but you're still Canadian at heart. In elementary school, you have report cards, right, where you get A's and B's and C's and that kind of thing. I want you to give yourself grades in the following subjects.
Oh, jeez.
All right, here we go. Getting along with others.
B.
Okay, that's fair. Money management.
Well, I give myself a D in that, but I give myself an A in hiring.
Okay. Relationships with women.
Geez, B.
That's pretty high.
I
Music.
know. Doing okay. Music, what, appreciation or execution?
Execution.
C plus.
Math.
D.
English.
E. A.
Right. Spelling.
B plus.
Effort in life.
Oh, A, I guess.
You try real hard. Conduct.
Before noon, a D. After noon, about a B.
Remember the comment section where they used to have to, teachers would write little sentences about you? Would they?
Michael is a prime candidate for incarceration. They were pretty good to me. Actually, they were kind of optimistic until about the 9th grade, and then it kind of tapered off. But actually pretty encouraging. He usually said Michael would concentrate a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. What were you thinking about?
I don't know. Probably usually at that age, probably hockey.
Mm-hmm. Were you a good kid in class? I mean, were you sitting in the front of the class paying attention to the teacher, or were you sitting in the back cutting up, or in the middle somewhere?
I think I probably found a way to do both.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sit up at the front and be a good guy, and then as soon as the teacher went down to get the attendance sheets from the office, I usually kind of took over.
How were your parents when you were young? Did y'all get along real well? You good boy, good
Yeah.
son?
Well, I don't know about that.
I mean, all
we're
kids
all
have a hard time
lunatics,
with you.
but no, I have a great relationship with my folks. I always did.
Mm-hmm.
My father was in the military, and a certain amount of discipline, so got along well.
Tell me about getting along with fans. You're very well known now, obviously, with television and film success and everything you're doing. How do you handle the autographs and the screaming and that kind of thing? Do you have a philosophy about it?
Well, yeah. I mean, philosophy is just essentially, what an amazing privilege. It's not, people like to kind of build up this image of this army of 14-year-old girls that want to tear you apart, and it really isn't like that. I mean, people, as a rule, are real polite and real courteous, and essentially, I find myself in the situation of going to cities that I've never been to and having friends, and like I said, that's an amazing privilege.
Do you ever feel isolated? That feeling of, I shouldn't go outside, but you all make it up in your head?
Well, not really. I mean, in Los Angeles especially, because it's an industry town that, I essentially move around like anybody else. I think you get into the Midwest and other parts of the States, and, it's a judgment call in terms of what you want to get done. I mean, if you want to go out and accomplish a whole bunch of things in a very short amount of time, it's tough to do. But, no, I don't try to isolate myself too much or try and protect myself too much from a threat that I don't really perceive as being there,
Do you sometimes think your life is moving too fast? Or is it slowed down
only this morning. No, I think I got a real grip on what's going on, and you make a decision to make a career out of being an actor. You kind of brace yourself for a good deal of unemployment. So when you find yourself in the situation where you have a good deal of employment, I think you just buck up and take advantage of it, do the best work you can do, and kind of know that maybe 10 years down the line, you'll be what kids watch when they come home from school. and you know, syndicated television we were talking about, and you know, so I'm essentially feeling good about the pace that I'm setting and the work that I'm doing.
One thing I'm thinking about with you in music, because I keep seeing you with a guitar a lot. Are you and Don Johnston and Bruce Willis going to have the primetime band?
No, you know, I think Don and Bruce, you know, had kind of professional music careers before they got into acting. I mean, it was always just a hobby with me. And, you know, I'd mentioned a couple times yesterday, you know, much to the embarrassment of the music industry, I have been offered deals, but it's not...
it's an exploit. Will you feel that?
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't really feel good about asking somebody to pay $9 for that. You know, I have a career and it takes all my attention, and I feel that anything else would pretty much be exploitive and really much for, you know, to achieve the ultimate end of
but it's still a lot of fun, isn't it? It's great getting
to play, and especially to play in the context of a film. You know, is great. I mean, I love playing a musician. You know, but to pass myself off as a musician, as Michael Fox, is something that...
And a last little bit of business. Back to the Future was such a big success, and it seemed to lend itself to a sequel at the end, but I haven't really heard any more about that. What's going on?
Well, it's definitely in the works. I mean, everybody's all signed up for it. Bob Zemeckis, who directed Back to the Future, is doing another film right now called Who Killed Roger Rabbit. So when he finishes that, we're going to go, I think it's in '88.
Okay, so you got to really, it'll be a year and a
It'll
half
be like
before we see
'89
it.
before it's in the theaters, yeah.
Okay, so I wondered about that. Well, you're
I think
doing
they're calling it
wonderfully.
Back to the
And
Bank.
Family Ties, you still going to stay with that a little more?
I'm with that until they pull
Until
the
it's
plug,
over?
which doesn't look like it's going to happen.
So you'll be part of that family when you're old and gray, right?
You bet, you bet. I'm trucking away. I'm old and gray right now, actually.
All right, well, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Wonderful actor, and we enjoy your work a lot.
Thank you. Hello, Nashville.
All right, wonderful. No, I was in a garage, but that's impossible. Applause? Is that what you said? Oh. All right, where am I supposed to look? How about over here? Okay. All right. I'm just going to look and... Okay. Don't you love to be stared at?
Doc, do you have a 75 ohm matching transformer? What? Not invented yet. That's right.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
So, these are my personal belongings, huh?
Yeah.
What's this thing?
It's a hairdryer.
A hairdryer? Don't they have towels in the future? Look at these underpants. They're all made of cotton. I thought for sure we'd all be wearing disposable paper garments by 1985. What's this? Ooh, suddenly the future is looking a whole lot better.
All right, okay, Doc, it's ready. Come here.
The most challenging special effects sequence of this movie is when a lightning bolt strikes. I can remember reading the script for the first time and pondering just exactly how we were going to achieve it.
The way it was described in the script, it was like, and the largest lightning bolt in cinematic history descends from heaven and hits the clock tower. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like a challenge. I want to go for something like that.
It's very easy to write and sometimes hard to achieve, but I think we have some tricks up our sleeve yet.
I
think one of the things that was most intimidating about this movie when I first started doing it was that there were so many things going on, like the lightning, the wind, and all that stuff, that as an actor, you're kind of incidental. The thing I always got to remember is every time they watch a shot, they got to make sure that the crane is right, and the wind is right, and the lightning's right, and the leaves that they're throwing in is right. But I know when it gets in the theaters what they're going to look at is whether I look like an idiot or not. So I got to monitor that. Anyway, so the deal is now I gotta yell over these fans in order to be heard, so I sound like Broderick Crawford. My hair is not blowing around as much as it should because I got 20 pounds of grease in it. And so basically I'm dying out there, but it looks great, they keep saying. It looks great.
I think that the score for Back to the Future is brilliant.
Al Silvestri totally understood what we were after.
I saw the whole film. I came back and looked for something that would essentialize the whole film.
The aspects of the writing and shooting of this picture lent itself to this kind of old-fashioned fantasy adventure story.
We have a giant, full-sounding movie score.
I think it's absolutely essential that it's supporting and not overbearing. And the music was, that theme was incredible.
See if you bastards can do 90. I played guitar again as a teenager. I played in bands from when I was about 14 years old.
That thing right here where you're bouncing the bar on the second string, go to the second, yeah, and you bounce there, bounce there, bounce there, bounce there.
Right. I had a teacher named Paul Hansen, a guitar teacher who was an amazing guy and a really talented musician and a great teacher, really patient.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This is fun, this is where I get to fake it.
That's
I really
great,
am
Michael.
turning my hand now.
Okay, good. Now, Huey, what you want to do is you want to just stay up there with the megaphone screaming at these guys until they stop. Okay. And here we go. Marker.
Hey.
And next, please. Next group, please.
All right, okay. We're the pinheads.
Thank you very much, fellas. We'll try this again next year. Then tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985?
Ronald Reagan.
As they said in the film, Back to the Future, where are we going? We don't need roads.
Reagan loved the movie. We heard from the White House that when he ran the movie in the White House, he made the projection to stop the movie at the reference to who's president of the United States, and watch it again. He was laughing so hard he missed some of the dialogue.
Ronald Reagan, the actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
That title in itself is just extremely catchy. I wish I had a nickel for every time I've seen it in a headline or a sub-headline in a magazine, a newspaper, an advertisement, or, you know, hearing it mentioned time and time again on television or radio.
Stay in school. Get that diploma. And let's go back to the future now.
Because the movie is now dated in the present, sort of adds another spin to the idea of time travel, because the present is time travel unto itself. But I think that's part of sort of the charm of the whole concept.
Say, you know, Marty, I'm going to be very sad to see you go. You've really made a difference in my life. You've given me something to shoot for. Just knowing that I'm going to be around to see 1985. The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Is the DeLorean the egg or the chicken? Which enhances which? Does the movie enhance the DeLorean, which of course it did, because the DeLorean went out of business and will still be remembered because of the movies? Did the DeLorean enhance the movie? Well, of course it did, because the original time travel was done in a refrigerator.
Look out!
When Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis decided that they weren't going to make the time machine a refrigerator and they were going to make it a DeLorean, it was a natural pick.
This idea evolved in the story that if it were in a really cool looking car, which would, you know, be able to drive fast, that would also create problems for the person, especially when he goes back in time, because he would have this vehicle that was like from another world.
Here we go. Debris. And rolling.
Hey, camera only. Mark.
Action!
We wanted to do that one joke in the barn where the kid from the 50s sees a contemporary car and thinks it's a spaceship. That was the joke. And then we said, oh, well, DeLorean. They have gull-wing doors.
It's a flying saucer from outer space!
So things that appealed to me right away were, you know, it's this teenage kid, you know, this guy, rock and roll musician who liked to skateboard and chase girls, which was, you know, pretty much who I was.
By the third day, he knew every single person on the set by name. He was just so gung-ho, and I mean, he actually, you know, sort of matched Zemeckis' energy level.
The big global idea is to have the audience invested in the character.
So if you compare, say, a Jimmy Stewart type character and compare a Marty McFly, Michael Fox in a Back to the Future film, I think what you see is like, gosh, this is a teenager not that dissimilar from myself.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. This is where Ralph dresses up as a man from space.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
Yeah, well, I saw it on a rerun.
You can look at It's a Wonderful Life, which is sort of a time travel story. And that works, even though, you know, I wasn't alive back in 1946, which is where it takes place. All movies that are timeless, if you will, or work even when they're dated, work because the characters are universal.
1955.
Marty McFly is a very reactive character.
My name is Lorraine. Lorraine Baines?
But you're so thin.
And Michael was this kid, you know, with all that excitement and curiosity and energy. And I remember coming off of that very easily.
It was the nature of Michael J. Fox that he brought good things out in everybody else, and he fed off of those good things that came out of that.
Michael Fox is, he's a great actor. He's got a fabulous sense of comedy timing. He looks perfect for the part.
Michael Fox has a great sense of humor. He's got wonderful comic timing. His dry approach to Alex in Family Ties is what, for me, causes me to watch that show week to week to week to week to week.
He would be filming Family Ties all day, then come and be Marty all night.
So they only sleep. He was getting a lot of the time. was the amount of time it took him in the back of the car between Paramount and Hollywood out to Universal.
Probably work until about 4:35 in the morning, and then I'll sleep until about 6 o'clock.
Michael stepped in and it was there.
He was Marty McFly. You don't always know in those first couple of weeks. To me, it was like, this is a fait accompli. It's either going to work or it isn't.
Michael J. Fox is a sort of everyman. He's accessible as an actor. He's likable. He's funny. He's got great timing. I mean, everybody, there's something about him that is appealing as an actor.
Bob was right. Bob's got great instincts, and he knew who was right for Marty McFly.
This was a big studio movie. He loved the script. He really wanted to be there.